Thank you. How's everyone doing today? All right. Well, I am Stephanie Davis. I represent the small business program at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, and I'm here to provide a little bit of additional information on product development resources and funding opportunities for heart, lung, blood, and sleep technologies. So a little bit about the NHLBI mission. I know you've heard from my colleagues at the NIH today, so I'm not going to bore you with that mission because I know you all know what it is. But our institute is specifically disease-focused. So we provide global leadership for research, training, and education programs to promote the prevention and treatment of heart, lung, blood diseases to enhance the health of all individuals so they can live longer and more fulfilling lives. And although it's not mentioned here, we also are focused on sleep disorders as well. So in the strategic goals that fall under the NHLBI umbrella, my office, the Innovation and Commercialization Office, is specifically focused on the latter two, which is to develop workforce and resources, specifically in the startup community, and also advancing translational research through the small business program. So my office is called the Innovation and Commercialization Office, and we have four major goals here. So first is to improve the probability of NHLBI-funded technologies impacting patients. Two, to lead training and educational programs for innovators in the heart, lung, blood, and sleep space. Three, to broaden diversity, inclusion, and reach of the small business program. And four, to create novel solutions to meet unmet heart, lung, blood, and sleep needs. So basically, our goal is to develop programs, funding opportunities, and other resources to help support and commercialize new technologies for patients with heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders. So under the Innovation and Commercialization Office, we have the small business program, which is the main focus of our office, but we also have other resources and foci that fall under our mission. So while we support small businesses through grants and additional programs to support commercialization of technologies, later stage funding opportunities, and programs to support diversity, our office also provides additional support to academic and pre-company innovators through some of the programs that are listed up here. Additionally, we have part-time entrepreneurs in residence and subject matter experts who provide advisory services, pitch coaching, and partnering opportunities and mentoring services to both of these communities with the end goal of advancing translational research and new technologies from both of these communities. So, just to recap what you've probably heard earlier today, the small business program is congressionally mandated across the NIH. So it consists of two major programs. One is the Small Business Innovation Research, or SBIR program, which is the parent small business program. And at the NIH, it's about $1.25 billion. The goal of this program is to set aside dollars for small businesses who engage in R&D activities to help develop their technologies that have the potential for commercialization that may also advance the mission of that agency. The STTR program is a companion to the SBIR. It has very similar goals, but it is uniquely designed to promote the partnership between small businesses and nonprofit US-based research institutions. This program is a little bit smaller, but both of them together make up about $1.4 billion at the NIH. So at the NIH, and specifically at the NHLBI, small business program grants are given out in different phases. So these are not the same as clinical trial phases, although the NHLBI does support clinical trials through these programs, but instead they correspond to phases of development. So phase 1 grants, those are usually at the NHLBI, most of what we fund is going to be under around $314, $363 over 1 to 2 years. These grants are designed to provide proof of concept for technologies in our mission space. Phase 2 grants, which are a little bit under $2.1 million, but we will often provide additional flexibility for large animal studies and clinical studies. These are designed to promote larger scale R&D activities and proving efficacy rather than just proof of concept. There also is the option to apply for a fast track grant, which is where you apply for phase 1 and phase 2 in the same package. And phase 2, there is a direct to phase 2 option where companies that have already done work that's equivalent to a phase 1 can go through and skip over the phase 1 portion to prevent redoing work that's already been done with non-federal funds. At the NHLBI, we also have later stage funding opportunities to support companies that have already gotten phase 2 awards. Most notably, we have competing renewal phase 2B programs, which I will talk about in a little bit, and we also support later stage activities both in the development and commercialization space through the Commercialization Readiness Pilot Program. And we don't have a phase 3 program. Some agencies will, where the agency acts as the buyer. We do not. Beyond the phase 2B, it is our goal that our companies are being supported primarily through strategic partners or private investors. So I mentioned that there are 2 different programs that fall under the small business grant umbrella. And so these consist of the SBIR and STTR programs. As I mentioned before, they're more similar than they are different, and they have a similar end goal, but there are a few key differences. For SBIR grants, it is allowable for the small business to partner with an academic institution, but it's not required. STTR will require this partnership. For SBIR grants, there are employment requirements for the contact PI. They must be primarily employed with the small business at the time of the award. For STTR grants, it's a little more flexible. The PI can be employed either with the small business or with the academic partner. They just need to devote at least 10% effort to the project. And STTR is beloved by academic spinouts for this reason, because of that PI flexibility. Finally, there are work and outsourcing requirements. So with SBIR grants for the phase 1 awards, it is recommended that the small business phase 1 awardee does not outsource more than 33% of the budget. And then in phase 2, that goes up to 50% of the budget. For STTR in all phases, there are minimum work requirements or budgetary requirements for the small business and the academic partner. In all phases, there is a hard requirement for the small business to take at least 40% of the budget, and the academic partner needs to take at least 30% of the budget. So at the NHLBI, most of the applications we get are through these 3 application cycles, and they are the same every year. Unless one of these dates falls on a weekend or a federal holiday, you can count on grant applications being due then. So our most recent deadline was on January 5th, but the next deadline is on April 5th. So at the NHLBI, we have these grants are usually reviewed in around June, sometimes early July. They will go to our October council, and then the earliest they can get funded is December. So it's always important to talk to the program officer at the institute or center you're targeting, because some institutes and centers will fund their April submissions in September. We are not one of those. We wait a little bit longer till the new fiscal year. So when you're applying for a small business grant, one thing to keep in mind is that there is going to be anywhere from a 6 to 9 month delay between when you apply and when you could potentially get funded. I'm not going to go over all of these in a lot of detail because I know my colleagues have touched on them, but just as a reminder, you will submit your grant electronically to the NIH. It will get assigned to an institute or center and a scientific review group by the Division of Receipt and Referral. So if you're developing something and it focuses on cardiovascular, non-malignant, lung or blood, or sleep-focused indications, it's likely going to get assigned to us. So your application is going to get reviewed, and it is those comments from the review will be released in your summary statement. So if your grant scores well, it will go to our advisory council, and then our council will make broad funding recommendations, and these recommendations will be used to put together our funding list. So applications that are either on the funding list or might end up on the funding list will be contacted for additional information during just-in-time, and then finally the notice of award can go out. So the process can take several months, so it's always important to kind of plan accordingly based on these timelines. So the study section will review grant applications using 5 scored review criteria, as well as additional review criteria that either are not factored into the score or factor into the overall score, but don't receive individual scores themselves. So these are actually the same criteria that we use for R01s and academic grants, but the way they're interpreted by the reviewers is a little different. So significance is the first, and that is this technology going to fulfill some sort of real unmet medical need, and is there commercial potential or a market for the product? The second is investigators. So there is a focus on the qualifications of the PI, but more importantly, we're looking at the team. And especially for phase 2 and later, there's a big emphasis on having a well-balanced and experienced management team at the company. Innovation, so is the product new in its field, or does it offer any sort of significant advantage over its competitors? Because, ultimately we want to invest technologies in, or invest money in technologies that are going to provide some sort of clear advantage over what we have now. Approach, so is the research design appropriate for the specific aims? Is it feasible? Can it be done in the time limitations and budgetary limitations that we have? And finally, environment. So a lot of early stage companies are virtual, so if your company does not have these resources in-house, are you working with other providers or partners who can provide these resources and facilities? There are additional review criteria. These are factored into the overall review score, but not scored individually, as well as other comments which will be left by the reviewers, but they don't affect your priority score. And keeping in mind all of these together, this is what is going to be the primary determining factor for your grant being considered for funding. So, as I mentioned, the NHLBI is interested in supporting the development of innovative and commercially promising products for treating, preventing, diagnosing, and also researching heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders. As I noted earlier, we are not interested in malignant lung or blood diseases, so if you are interested in that space, you will want to talk to our friends at the National Cancer Institute. But otherwise, if it fits that definition, it's most likely going to go to us. We are the 4th largest institute in terms of small business budget at the NIH. So we have about $136 million in non-dilutive funds towards being able to fund these technologies. And at any one time, we usually have over around 300 active projects. This pie chart shows a recent breakdown of the technologies we fund. We're a very device-heavy institute, but we still have a strong interest in therapeutics. This breakdown does change based on the proposals we get, because most of what we fund is investigator-initiated research. So here's just an example of conditions that fall under our mission space. This does not include everything, so if you have a question about whether your project fits in our mission, you can always reach out to us to confirm. So the Innovation and Commercialization Office, we provide support and funding for companies through all stages of development and even before the grant comes in. So this starts with our application services. So myself and my colleagues will have pre-submission consults with applicants to determine whether or not their proposal fits well in the NHLBI mission space, and also to advise them on which funding opportunity might be the best for them. We also provide pre-application assistance programs, which I will cover in a minute, as well as outreach and educational events to the extramural community. So we provide funding as well, which includes phase 1, phase 2, fast track, phase 2B, and CRP awards, as well as other translational programs that are not small business but support similar activities. And then for our awardee community, we have a lot of great opportunities that go beyond the grant. For example, we have product development guidance. Our institute has 5 part-time subject matter experts that we employ to give pro bono consults to our companies. And some of the areas that they provide consults in are listed up on the slide. They also help us with providing educational programming for our supported innovators. We have admin supplements that can be added to the parent grant to support a lot of different activities. And this could include the diversity supplement program, which allows companies to bring on new early career scientists with the end goal of diversifying the SBIR-supported workforce. The supplement programs to support customer discovery through I-Core, technical and business assistance supplements, and also additional awards to support commercialization readiness. And finally, we have a lot of programming that we've been developing to help our companies connect with investors and strategic partners. And this includes sending them to pitch coaching, giving them pitch coaching, and also giving them conference access. So we have several companies that are here on behalf of the NHLBI presenting at the Resi and Biotech Showcase events. We also have the ability to connect them with potential investors and partners. Most recently, we have been doing this through our AI-driven partnering platform. So this is brand new. We just launched it a few months ago, and it is open for our companies to, all of the award data is already there. We are encouraging our companies to build up their profiles and upload documents such as exec summaries and non-confidential pitch decks. But if you're a service provider, a potential partner, or an investor, I would strongly encourage you to join because it's a great way to connect with our companies and get additional business. So it's free. You can just scan the QR code. I'll just give everyone a minute to scan. But we are really excited about this platform, and we think it's going to lead to great things for our companies. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next phase. So in addition to the investigator-initiated applications that we get through the omnibus solicitations, we have other notices of funding opportunities that go beyond that. So here are some of the targeted funding opportunities that the NHLBI participates in. So I mentioned the Commercialization Readiness Pilot Program. We also participate in the HEAL Initiative, which is led by the NINDS, and we are interested in technologies and therapeutics for pain management in heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders. We participate in the Innovations for Healthy Living RFA led by NIMHD. I know my colleague Mike mentioned that earlier during his talk. And we also have a special grant that is available to help early stage and new entrepreneurs serve as a first-time PI on a small business grant. And finally, the first two listed, we have Phase 2B opportunities for companies that have already gotten Phase 1 awards, or Phase 2 awards. We also have notices of special interest. These are not funding opportunities per se. They are linked to the omnibus solicitations, but I would recommend referencing these notices if you apply through the omnibus and you have a relevant proposal, because this is how we easily track applications that are in areas of high priority for us. So I mentioned that we have small business Phase 2B opportunities for companies that have already gotten Phase 2s. And we recently republished our new versions of these programs. So we have two of them. They're called the Bridge and the Small Market RFAs. The purpose for both of them is pretty similar. They are designed to provide innovators that have already been supported through Phase 2 awards additional funding to help reach their regulatory milestones and connect with investors and strategic partners. So the Bridge program covers pretty much anything that falls under our mission. The Small Market program is specifically designed for technologies in the pediatric and/or rare disease spaces. So these budgets for these both awards is up to $3.5 million total costs over 3 years. So we got a budgetary increase since last time. But the matching requirement remains the same. So there is a 1-to-1 match expected for Bridge applicants. So if you ask for $3.5 million, you're expected to bring in $3.5 million. For small market awardees, it's 1-to-3. So if you ask for 3.5, we're going to expect you to bring in at least 1.167 million. And we are planning on hopefully funding 5 new Bridge awards and 2 new small market awards next fiscal year. So we have the next receipt date is February 25th, but we also have an informational webinar. So if you'd like to register for this webinar, even if you don't have a grant with us and you just want to see more about the program, you are welcome to attend. It's going to be on January 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern. So I mentioned that we have a lot of resources for grantees beyond just the funding. And these can cover, one of the first resources I wanted to touch on is the Technical and Business Assistance Program. So most of the grants that we give out, they're designed to cover research and development activities. But these companies have an additional allowance that they can use for expenses related to technical and business assistance. So some of the activities under this umbrella include product sales assistance, market research, IP protections, access to technical and business databases. So companies can either request these applications, allowances in their application directly, or afterwards through, you can either go through an administrative supplement, or they can also, for example, the Phase 1 awardees can get a needs assessment report that will show their company areas that require de-risking and maturity. The I-Corps program at the NIH is another program we participate in. This is designed for Phase 1 and early stage fast track grantees to get customer discovery experience and further refine their business plans by doing at least 100 interviews with potential customers and end users over 8 weeks. So we actually have the next due date coming up. It is on January 31st, 2025. And companies that are selected for this will get $55,000 to participate in the program and also cover additional travel and personnel-related expenses. We have another program that we have for our medical device-focused companies and teams. There's 2 programs that fall under the Concept to Clinic Commercializing Innovation program. The Education, or EC3I program, is basically designed for our pre-SBIR teams. So these include our academic innovators and teams that have an NIH grant, but not a small business grant. This provides 10 weeks of entrepreneurial training. The program that we have for small business grantees is the Validation Execution, or namesake C3I program, which provides 2 12-week segments of entrepreneurial training for companies that are developing medical devices for heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders. And also, I mentioned that we have a supplement program that allows companies to hire early stage scientists who want to get experience in the private sector and develop themselves as biomedical entrepreneurs. So this is our admin supplement program to promote diversity. Any company that has an active grant with us that has at least 6 months left on their active award is eligible to apply for it, provided that the candidate is a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. But this is a great opportunity to provide that candidate with training, real-world experience, and entrepreneurial immersive development. And the supplement program will cover the salary for that candidate, as well as an additional allowance for travel and supplies. So we also have a program that is designed for pre-application support. So we have, it's called the Innovator to Entrepreneur program. My colleague Natalia might have mentioned this morning because we participate in it with NIAID. But it is designed to assist participants with program development, application development, small business training, grantsmanship training, entrepreneurial training, one-on-one consulting, and marketing outreach activities. So we have 2 cohorts on a rolling basis. We actually are, I believe, accepting applications now. So if you are developing a technology that either falls in the NIAID or the NHLBI mission space, and you are an inexperienced entrepreneur who has not received a small business award, I would strongly encourage you to check this program out. So in addition to all of these administrative supplement programs and pre-application support programs, as I mentioned, we have a team of entrepreneurs in residence at our office that provides pro bono one-on-one consults in their areas of expertise. So we have a booking system that we recently developed for grantees to book with our entrepreneurs in residence, and now this has been incorporated into the partnering platform to make it even easier. So we also have our mentor network where we engage external product development experts for educational content outside of our office. And as I mentioned, we offer companies the opportunity to attend pitch coaching events, as well as sometimes custom innovation showcases that are set up by the NHLBI. And so I also wanted to cover one other program that is not under the SBIR or an STTR program, but might be of interest to small businesses. And it is called Catalyze. So Catalyze provides a comprehensive suite of support and services, as well as funding to develop novel technologies that relate to heart, lung, blood, and sleep disorders. So this includes product definition grants, preclinical support services, and a suite of other support services through the Catalyze program. So here are just some examples of the types of activities that are covered by both the product definition RFAs and the preclinical support programs. So we have these these activities can be covered for the development of novel small molecules, biologics, enabling technologies and research tools, as well as medical devices and diagnostic devices. So, here's just kind of an example of what we cover. We don't cover clinical trials, so that's something that we offer through the small business program, but Catalyze mostly focuses on preclinical support. And the next due date for the product definition funding opportunities is February 11th. We recently had the Catalyze RFAs be resubmitted, which is very exciting. So these are open to academic institutions, but also small businesses. And I will note that companies can use the Catalyze program if they want to do things such as collaborate with a non-US based partner. Because it's not small business, it's a lot more flexible as far as allowing that. And if you can't make the February 11th due date, it's okay, there's another one in June. So, as a reminder, we want to encourage you all to connect with us. I've included QR codes here to either join our partnering platform, to visit our website, or to sign up with our newsletter, just to keep up to date on all things that the Innovation and Commercialization Office is up to. Thank you all so much for your time. Oh, yes.
Do you do matchmaking? So if we submit an application with limited visibility to your other applications, do you notice that our capability could be used by other applications to put them together?
So the closest thing we do to matchmaking is kind of on that partnering platform that I mentioned. So for example, like if someone were to register as an investor or a service provider, our companies who are registered as innovators would be able to, use word searches and use different filters to kind of narrow down their search to identify the providers or partners that they're looking for on the platform, and it would also recommend others that are similar. So I would say that's the closest thing we do to matchmaking.
For scoring things like the new breakthrough device, the recent development for the breakthrough device designation, how does that fall into your scoring on a is that valuable as FDA input, or are you looking for a pre-sub? Just curious how you look at those.
Great question. So that is, when you say you, do you mean NHLBI or the peer reviewers?
Well, from our standpoint, it's the it's the submission. So I'd like you to tell us both perspectives.
Okay, so in terms of the reviewers, so that's likely going to factor into both their significance and their approach criteria when they're scoring applications. For us, that is beneficial. So, and specifically for our Phase 2B RFAs, there is a strong a strong suggestion for people who are companies that are applying for Phase 2Bs to submit regulatory documentation with the FDA. For Phase 2 awardees, which usually for us come in through the omnibus, it's not required, but it is strongly recommended. So it's one of those things that we don't enforce, but if you have it, it's going to make you more competitive.
And to follow up with that, so you could have a pre-sub, 10 minutes from a pre-sub. But the breakthrough device designation has a contribution into a submission. How is that being qualified as being feedback?
So you can't really, unless you're going through the phase 2Bs, you're not allowed to like include minutes from the FDA discussion. There are certain documents that are required or that are allowed in an omnibus submission. Other ones just have to be described in the research strategy and the commercialization plan. But those would be details I would include in the commercialization plan specifically.
You said about catalyzed support for small businesses. That must be US based. Is foreign companies that have subsidiary US apply for that?
So if that's the case, the U.S. subsidiary can apply, not the parent company. But with Catalyze, as long as you are a U.S.-based organization, you can apply.
Okay, so subsidiary.
Yes, yes, the subsidiary would be able to apply as long as they're based in the U.S.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Right, Nico.
Can you elaborate a little bit more on the concept to clinic program?
Yes, absolutely. So happy to, oh, no, my slides are gone. So the C3I program is run by the National Institute for Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering. There are two tracks, the educational C3I or EC3I for us, and each institute has different requirements in terms of what types of programs they'll support under it. For us, basically any program that is not small business, we are willing to support those medical device innovators through educational C3I. For us, if you're a small business grantee, you are only eligible to apply for the main C3I program. So companies that participate in this, we will support their participation, and they can get feedback from like regulatory, reimbursement experts, people who can help you develop your business plan. So, as long as it's a medical device, then, and there's an active award, we'll try to help the company, we'll try to support their participation in it. Yes.
So can you explain a little bit more about that diversity supplement? You said that it's before your card expired, 6 months before it expired.
Generally, yes. So there are different expectations for, like, if you're hiring a candidate who is later in their career, like they're more of like a research assistant professor level, we're going to expect more time on the parent grant to really give them time to get a valuable training experience. But for example, if a parent grant has less than 6 months left and they only want to do something like support an undergraduate intern for 3 months, then we're a little more flexible on it. But generally speaking, the earlier you apply, the better, because it gives the candidate more time to be supported by that program.
So how long will you hear back?
It depends. I would say usually 1 to 2 months.
And is it possible to give those slides? That you have a lot of people.
You all are distributing the slides, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Website with recording. Along with recording.
Okay, thank you.